on, guys? It's your boy Joe here, back with another epic video here today. Today I'll be doing the video I've been telling you guys about for the last few videos, is how to play Yu-Gi-Oh in 2020, just kind of start to finish. So we'll just kind of go ahead and guys and just go ahead and dive right into it. I did make a job aid for this. That's why it took so long for me to do this video. I've been working on this video for the last two and a half days now. It's in the link in the description down below if you want to check it out, and it's got a little quiz as well too. If you're welcome to take that as well too. But yeah, we'll go ahead and dive in, guys. But if you do use the link down below, all you have to do is click this little present button where you see my mouse hovering over now. Once you click present, then it's going to bring you over to like this screen here. So you'll see it's just like regular PowerPoint. So all you have to do, guys, is just press just left click basically, and it's going to take you to this page here. But before we dive into today's topics and go through how to play the game, guys, remember to share this video. If you know someone that you've been trying to get to play, or maybe they're just coming back in, or maybe you're a kid and trying to get your parents to play, or maybe you're trying to get a friend, whatever, whichever way, whoever you're trying to get into the game. I think this will be a good video. I'm also going to continue to do an entire series on this, guys, going over different tips and tricks, deck profiles, deck builds, how to play the game, stuff like that. A lot of the topics in here I'm going to also make separate videos on, so if I don't touch on something enough, I'll definitely make a separate video. Please let me know down below in the comments, guys, if you have a question or if something you would like for me to do that's in today's video that you'd like me to do a whole video just specifically on that topic to kind of go over any any clarifications or anything like that you need. With that being said, guys, let's go ahead and dive in. First off, right, we're going to dive into the winning conditions, right? Because you need to know how to win and lose and all that good stuff, right, to actually be able to play the game. So we're going to start with winning conditions. So when, guys, how you're basically going to do that is basically by the easiest way and the most common way of winning in Yu-Gi-Oh is basically your opponent losing all their life points, or you losing all your life points and you losing, right? Whichever happens. Both players start with 8,000. How you do damage? Some card effects, do like effect damage directly to the 8,000 points. You can attack your opponent with monsters and they take damage. You can attack them directly and they take direct damage to their life points based on your attack. That's the most common way to win the game. Another one is by having all 5 pieces of Exodia in your hand. That's an automatic term of victory. This is another one that not a lot of people kind of think about or sometimes forget about, your opponent not being able to draw. So if your opponent runs out of cards and they're not able to draw for their turn, you automatically win. The other one down at the bottom, there's some of these I think that may still be legal, but most of these cards are illegal, but I figured I'd still mention them. There are cards that let you instantly win the duel or the match. A match is best out of 3 duels, guys. So if you win, 2 duels, you win the match out of the 3. So basically it's the first one really to 2, basically, unless there's a draw, which is very rare, but it happens, of course, same as any other game. Next, so how a turn works, guys. So I broke this down as well too. So we're going to be looking this as a player 1's turn, but it's the same thing, the same steps all apply, but we'll go over the difference in player 1's turn, first turn, and player 2's first turn. So let's go ahead and dive in. So let's start out with the draw phase. So that's where we'll start out because it's the first one. So when you start the game, guys, both players draw 5 cards. So that's what you guys would do, draw 5 cards. Then you need to decide, of course, who's going to go first, right? Some people will flip a coin, some people roll a dice. Me and my friends sometimes will pick up from the deck. And what I mean by that is we'll pick up, and whoever monster has the highest attack, and they can decide if they want to go first or if they want the other person to go first. That's pretty much still how we played to this day. We've played, for like the last decade, just about now, if not a little longer. But that's basically how you would start the game and draw. The person that does go first, though, the disadvantage of going first is you don't get to draw your draw phase that turn. So you just have the 5 cards. So the advantage of going second, guys, is being able to draw 1 card for your turn, and you can also attack for your first turn as well too. So that's the pros of going second. But if you went first, your next turn you will be able to draw a card, and you'll draw a card for each of your turns after that going forward. So you won't have to worry about that. It's just the first turn rule stipulation. The standby phase, this only applies really if you guys have like a card effect that says it only activates in the standby phase, unless your opponent decides to activate a card while you're in standby phase. Some cards can only be activated in the standby phase, but it's not really used as much as it used to be, unless your opponent just activates something in this phase, or you have a card that specifically says it either takes effect or it can only be activated in this phase. There's a few cards that still like that to this day. Main phase 1 is mostly where you're going to be doing all of your, basically everything. Basically, this is where you guys are going to normal summon your monster. You can normal summon one monster per turn, or set a monster in face down defense. You can activate any spell cards from your hand or monster card effects that's, maybe that you summoned out or whatever it may be. You can also change the battle positions of your monster, but you can't change the battle position of your monster the turn you summon it. So if you went first and you summoned your monster in face up attack mode, it has to always be face up attack mode. You can't do face up into face down attack mode. It has to always be face up attack mode. The monster stays face up in attack mode. You can't change your mind and shift it once it's in attack. It's in attack. You have to wait to your next turn. If it's still alive next turn, then you can shift it to defense if you want to. But once it's it's there, it's already there. But this is the main thing where you're going to be doing, basically just playing the cards in your hand and stuff like that, and building up your board and your field. Next is going to be the battle phase. So this is just like as it sounds, guys. It's going to be the phase where you get to attack. So player 2 will get attack their very first turn. If you went first, if you're first player and you went first, you won't get to attack your first turn. So you'll have to wait to your second turn to be able to attack if you went first. So how attacking works in this game, guys. So if let's say my monster is 18,000 attack, 1800 attack, and your monster is 200 attack, like an example they have here, your monster would be destroyed and you would lose 1600 life points out of the 8,000 that we discussed earlier. What if, let's say my monster is weaker, so my monster only has 1,000 attack and I attack your 3,000 attack point monster. In this case, I would lose 2,000 life points. If both monsters have the same attack, both monsters are destroyed. No person loses any life points, but both are destroyed and go to the graveyard. Next, we'll look at attack versus defense monsters. So let's say my Cyber Dragon attacks your Marauding Captain. Your Marauding Captain would be destroyed and sent to the graveyard, but you wouldn't take any battle damage since it's in defense mode. So that's the good thing about defense, guys. It's what it literally is. It's literally defending you against the monster is protecting you from losing life points and being able from getting attacked directly as well too. So yep. So the next one, right? So let's say that my attack is too weak for your defense. Let's say your defense is higher than my attack. So I have a 1400 attack, but your monster has a 1900 defense. So when I go to attack, I'm going to lose 500 life points because my monster is 500 points less than your defense. Neither monster are destroyed, guys. Both stay on the field, but just the person in this case that attacked with the lower 1400 attack point monster is going to take that 500 damage out of their 8,000 points. The bottom example, right? So let's say both of them have the same I have 2,000 attack and your monster has 2,000 defense. Both monsters stay on the field. Nothing happens. Neither player loses any life points. That's pretty much how that goes. Next, I wanted to include this as well. If you attack like a monster that's face down, and it'll look like this if it's face down defense on the field, it's flip face up. So if the monster has like a flip effect or an effect that would activate, that resolves first. So in this case, like let's say my Cyber Dragon over here attacks this face down card, and it attacks. Once we flip it face up, and it turns out it's Marshmallow. So the effect of Marshmallow, my opponent would take 1,000 first, so they would lose 1,000 life points. Also, Marshmallow can't be destroyed by battle. So Marshmallow still would survive the battle, so Cyber Dragon wouldn't be able to destroy my Marshmallow due to his effect. So he would still stay on the field in this case. So just remember, when you guys attack a monster that's face down, the effect happens first. And then you basically just go from there. Then if it would be destroyed by battle, then then you destroy it by battle after that. Main phase 2. This is mostly to me like where you're kind of maybe getting ready, depending on certain decks. Some decks kind of work like the Gladiator Beast that I love to use. Does a lot in main phase 2 and main phase 1 as well too. A lot of this, mostly main phase 2 for most decks, is mostly just to re-strategize or re-prepare yourself for your opponent's turn. If you went first, more than likely you won't probably be, have to do this per se, depending on what you did during main phase 1 that you may want to utilize main phase 2. You don't have to use main phase 2. You can just, go right through it. You don't have to do anything, but you have the option to, activate spell cards or maybe set a trap card that you didn't set face down or, something like that. You can't normal summon again in main phase 2. You can only normal summon yet again one monster per turn. The last one, guys, of course, is the end phase. There are some cards in decks that work specifically off the end phase, like Lightsworn is a perfect example. they send cards to the graveyard at the end of the turn. If there's anything like an effect of your monster, like a Light Sworn or something in the graveyard, or a Stardust Dragon that has to come back at the end phase, or whatever it may be, this is still a part of your turn. So this is the segue if you go into your turn to your opponent's turn. So all of your effects would resolve first. Once your effects resolve, if you have anything that would resolve during the end phase, that takes place first, and then it would be your opponent's turn. So just make sure you keep that in mind, please. But that's it, guys. That's how the turns work. So that's what you would do. The first player would just draw the 5 cards. They would be able to play the 5 cards and, do whatever effects they're able to do with the hand they got. Player 2 would be able to go, yet again, they would be able to draw 1 card, and they can attack their turn. Then they would end their turn. It would go back to player 1's turn, and then this turn you can draw a card for your turn, and each turn going forward you'll be able to draw a card too. Same for player 2 as well going forward. Alright guys, so we'll go to next one, different type of cards. We have monster cards in this game, of course. How to understand a monster card. The top you can see the name, the monster's attribute. There's different attributes. We'll get into that in here just a second. There's the levels. These little stars are levels. So this one's a level 5 because there's 5 stars, guys. There's different type of monsters. There's 25 different type of monsters. Cyberverse is one of the newer types. This one's also an effect monster. You can see it has effect here as well. And then you can see its attack points and its defense points down at the bottom. But that's all I wanted to show you guys with this particular slide, is just how to read basically how to read your card. The different attributes and the different types, guys. There's, like I mentioned, there's 25. There's 7 different attributes. There's 25 different types. There's dark, light, earth, fire, water, wind, and divine. But I figured this is just nice just to kind of mention this so you guys know what's all in the game. There are some decks that's based specifically on like warriors, machines, dragons, etc. Stuff like that too. And the same with attributes. There's a lot of decks that are just based on like dark and light, and some of the others too, but usually it's mostly dark and light or a combination of both. Alright, so we'll break down more of the monster card, guys. So in this case, we're going to be talking about normal monsters. They have no effects, so like a Blue Eyes is a good example. Or another good one is a Vorse Raider that I have here too. But these are what they look like. You notice it just says dragon. There's no effect like we looked at the other card, and then it just has like a little info about the card itself. It's not just to kind of give you like a description of kind of a backstory, sort of like to think of the card. Effect and tuner. So you guys can see the cards that have effects. It'll say like in this case machine and effect. For Jinzo, Gramol, you'll see rock and effect. And there's also tuners as well, guys. So this Junk Secron, we can see that he has an effect, and he's also a tuner. When he's normal summon, you can target 1, 2, or lower monster in your graveyard and special summon it to your side of the field in defense mode, and its effects are negated. He's used to synchro summon monsters. To be able to synchro summon, you need tuners to be able to do that. We'll discuss that more a little bit later in the video as well as we continue to dive in, guys. Next is going to be the pendulum monsters, guys. These are a little bit newer. They've been out for, I would say, at least a year or so. These are monsters and their spell cards. As you can see down here at the bottom, they're in your spell and trap card zone. They're always in the furthest ones. That's where they go. You can't put them in any of the zones. They have to be these further zones to be able to use them. How they work is, you can see how it has the little rating. The little number down here is a 1, and this one over here is an 8. So that lets me be able to special summon monsters from my hand, any monster from a 2 through a level 7 from my hand to special summon to my side of the field, like you guys see in the example here. But that's pretty much it. There's a lot of decks that's just strictly based on doing pendulums. There's some that's pendulums and a mix of something else. But just wanted to make sure I went over this with you guys. I'll do a separate video on pendulums because there's they can be kind of confusing, especially if you're just getting into the game. It's definitely different. I can remember when they very first come out, and I was still getting used to them as well too. So I'll do a whole video on these as well, guys. Next is spell cards. We'll kind of dive through these pretty quickly. Normal spell cards, I really just want you guys to be able to tell what a normal spell card is, and the same with the rest of the ones that we'll get in here as well. So you can tell that by looking here, and you can see it just says spell card. There's no icon or nothing. So this is what a normal spell card looks like, is like in the examples I've listed here. A continuous spell card looks kind of like the ones here, where it's got this little infinity signal and symbol, sorry. Like examples of Burden of the Mighty, Messenger of Peace. These are continuous spell cards. They will stay in your spell and trap card zone unless your opponent negates them, destroys them, or maybe you're not able to resolve the effect. Like Messenger of Peace, you have to keep paying the life points in order to keep it. If you don't pay the life points, it's destroyed. So make sure you guys keep that in mind. All right, next for quick plays. So quick plays are a little bit different, guys. You can notice quick plays by this little like lightning symbol or little quick symbol here. These you can actually play on your opponent's turn, but they have to be set down in your spell and trap guard zone face down, and then when it's your opponent's turn, you can activate them as well. Like good examples of that, like perfect ones are the ones I listed here, is the Mystic Space Typhoon and the Book of the Moon. These are cards that you can activate. So let's say you want to destroy like a face down, maybe even a continuous spell card that we just got done looking at, that your opponent activates on their turn. But to stop them from doing their combo, you activate Mystic Space Typhoon that you set face down on your turn because you went first. That's basically what these are for. You can also play them from your hand on your turn, of course, as well too. The normal spell cards we looked at are the continuous guys. You can't play those on your opponent's turn. They can only be played on your turn. So make sure you keep that in mind. Same with the others, with the equip and the field too. So for the equip cards, guys, it's just like it sounds. It equips to the monster. It looks, you can see, it's designated by this symbol that you see over here. Good examples of that is the Lightsworn Saber, Mage Power, Axe of Despair as well. A lot of these usually just give your monster more attack points. Some of them you can bring them back from the grave. Some of them keep them from being destroyed by battle or card effect, things like that, or allow you to draw cards for certain things. Just as always, just make sure you read the card. But this stays on the field equipped in the spell and trap card zone. So this card will sit in your spell and trap card zone, equipped to the monster. You don't have to put it like directly below the monster. You can put it anywhere on your spell and trap card zone field wise. Just make sure that you set it in there. It doesn't have to be like right below the card. You can do that if you want to, and it's up to you. Field spell, you guys can, so you can have a field spell and your opponent can have a field spell. Some good examples of field spells is Blackguard, Necro Valley, and the Seal of Orichalcos. You can see field spells are identified by this card here. But yeah, you guys can have two at the same time. A lot of them are just kind of to help, like the type of cards that you're using. Like if you're using a plant deck, for example, more than likely there's a good chance you might be using Black Garden. If you're using Gravekeepers, you're definitely using Necro Valley, of course, and things like that too. But these are field spell guys. Mostly they're used to kind of help with the deck that you're using, the type that you're using, and kind of help speed up the deck and things like that. Alrighty, next would be trap cards. So we'll dive into these guys. So first off, for normal traps, guys. So trap cards, you can't activate them from your hand. There are some that you can, but it'll specify on the card. I know that sounds sounds confusing, but it's really not. Just read the card and it'll say. Most of them have to be set face down. Some of them you can play instantly from your hand while it's your opponent's turn or on your turn. But yet again, it'll specify specifically on the card, so you won't have to worry about being confused. It sounds confusing, but when you actually look at the card, it makes perfect sense. It's one of those things you have to see it for it to make sense. Hopefully that makes sense. But other than that, you'll set your normal trap cards face down, and then when it goes to your opponent's turn, then you can activate them as long as you've met the criteria, or you're able to use, the conditions are met for this specific card. That's all you guys need to know about trap cards. Other than that, yet again, just read the card. Continuous trap cards are like continuous spells in a sense. When you guys activate them, they stay on your side of the field unless they're destroyed or negated, or something happens with the effect. So yet again, make sure you're reading the card. You can identify them. They'll look kind of like this, and they'll have the infinity symbol. I didn't put the pictures of any of them because it kind of made the it's hard to kind of look at, so that's why I did it for this one here. Just did the best that I could so you guys could at least see the symbol for it, which is all you really need to know. Counter trap cards, these are mostly to negate your opponent's cards, guys, or stop them from doing something. Maybe you're negating a summon, maybe you're negating an effect, maybe negating a spell or trap card your opponent played. You have to use these. If you're not using a counter trap, or some monsters have what's called quick effects that can negate stuff now too, like hand traps, which we'll go over here next. Things like that. If you don't have anything like that, you can't. You can still destroy their card, but their card still gets its effect. You're not negating it, so you have to have like a counter trap or a card that has like a quick effect that or has an special ability that negates card effects. If not, all you did was destroyed the card, and you more than likely wasted a card that you played, more than likely, depending on the situation. Hand traps, guys, these are a little bit newer. They've been out for a little bit, but they're one of the newer additions to the game. Yet again, these are cards you can play from your hand. A good example of actual one being a trap is Infinite Impermanence and Phantasme. These are cards that you can play directly from your hand. Some are monster cards, some are traps. But these can be just, yet again, make sure you're reading the card. As long as you met the conditions, you can play them from your hand, whether it's on your turn or your opponent's turn. Just yet again make sure you're reading the card. But they're really good. They're really unexpected too, especially they may end up catching. A lot of people get caught off guard by them because they just forget about them, to be honest. Alright guys, so next we'll dive in different ways to summon monsters. We've got a lot to go through, these different ones. So for normal summon, you only remember you only get one normal summon once per turn, unless you have a monster effect or a card effect that's going to allow you additional normal summon. So in this case, we normal summon, like the example here, our Galaxy Serpent. Here in the face-up attack mode, so we can see it's in attack mode. It's in one of the monster card zones. So that's what it looks like when you normal summon and put it in attack mode. There's also tribute summon, so we can still take our same Galaxy Dragon and tribute him for our Cyber Dragon that's in our hands. So we'll take him, put him in the graveyard, and we'll put Cyber Dragon in his place. For the tributes, like you guys see down below, 5 or 6 is 1 tribute. Anything that's 7 or higher, you guys will need 2 tributes, like it's got listed down below here. So just make sure you're looking at the level, those little stars that we looked at earlier. Please make sure you're looking at that so you can see if your monster needs 1 or 2 tributes to be able to play it, for you to be able to tribute summon the card. Special summon, you can special summon as many monsters as you're able to. There's no set limit unless you've already activated something that's trapped you into you can't special summon the rest of the turn, or hey, you can only special summon a certain set of cards, or a specific set card, or your opponent's done the same thing, or vice versa. So just make sure you guys keep that in mind. Other than that, you can special summon as many cards as you're able to during your turn. There's no set limit, unless in your field's basically full, and there's basically no point of doing that because your board's already full or whatever. This we kind of looked at earlier. So the set, when you set a card, so like the Marshmallow that we discussed earlier, you would set it face down defense. This is what it would look like here to protect your life points from getting damaged. Also, when what's called a flip summon or a flip effect. Another good example of that would be Raikou of the Lightsworns. When he's set face down, let's say like Blue Eyes attacks him. When Blue Eyes attacks Raikou, Raikou's flip face up, guys. His flip effect activates first, so I can destroy Blue Eyes with Raikou's effect, but the Blue Eyes attacks still go through, so Raikou is still destroyed. I won't lose any life points, but I will kill my opponent's Blue Eyes White Dragon, and it'll go to the graveyard, so at least I won't have to deal with Blue Eyes anymore. So that's still good. Good thing to know, though, but it's definitely a surprising card. A lot of people don't use flip effects too much anymore. There are some set decks that just work on flip effects, but you don't see them as much as you used to back in the old school days. Next, guys, are ritual monsters. They've kind of recently amped this up over the years. It was kind of, to me, I feel like it's kind of dying down, but I would say over the last year, maybe 2 years at most, they've made a lot of stuff where you can just build specifically nothing but a ritual deck. How ritual monsters work, and guys, index to you, is what it is. You have a ritual spell card, you activate the spell card, and then you have to get rid of tribute, basically either from your hand or your side of the field. Monsters equal the level that we looked at, the little stars, that equal that on the card that you're trying to play from your hand. So you have to have the ritual spell card, you have to have the ritual monster card, and then you also have to be able to tribute cards on your side of the field and or in your hand equal to that level, and then you can special summon the monster from your hand at that point. But that's how ritual summons work. Next are fusions. These have been out forever as two, guys. For these, like for this example here, like to play Flame Wingman, what I would need is Avion, Elemental Avion, and Burstinatrix as well. And then also I need the spell card Polymerization that you see down here at the bottom. How I would get up getting Flame Wingman out is I would play Polymerization while I have both of them either in my hand or side of the field for the Flame Wingman and not Flame Wingman, for Burstinatrix and Avion. They can be my hand or side of the field or a mixture of both. I play that, I send them both to the graveyard, and then I special summon him from my extra deck. In face-up attack or face-up defense. More than likely, it's of course going to be face-up attack if you're playing him. Synchro Summon, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the video. These are to do with the tuners, guys, so make sure on the card itself you look and see if it has a tuner. Some Synchro monsters, you have to have a specific tuner, and then there's a lot of them, of course, too, a good majority of them, you don't have to have a set monster, you just need a tuner. How these work, guys, is exactly like you see down in the picture. As we take our tuner and then another non-tuner monster, you can't do multiple tuners with the card. It has to be just one tuner monster only, guys. So if you have like two tuners, you wouldn't be able to play whatever it is you're trying to play. So in this case, we're trying to play Junk Warrior. So to play Junk Warrior, uh, we're gonna basically get rid of our level 3 and our level 2. We're gonna send both of these guys to the graveyard, and then I can special summon my Junk Warrior from the extra deck. And that's how the same how you would play any other synchro monster as well too, guys. Just make sure you're reading the card, and it'll let you know if you have to have like a set tuner monster to be able to do it. Another new one that's been out, for a little bit now is the XYZ summon. To do that, guys, in this case, they're basically just levels. So like most of them, you need like 2 level 4s or whatever it is, or 3 level 4s, or 2 level 8s, 2 level 6s, 2 level 5s. You name it. There's a card of it. Some of them have like 3 monsters that you need to make it. It depends on the card. You'll look on your XYZ monster card to see what you need to play it, of course. But in this case, to play Utopia, I just need 2 level 4s. So how they work is, when I've got the picture over here, instead of them going to the graveyard like the other cards that we looked at, these actually attach or kind of stack to the monster card. So in your monster card zone, you'll have Utopia, and then under him, you'll have out kind of to the side, like I have here in the picture, the monsters that used to make him. And then what you do with Utopia, if you're not familiar with what he does, you can send one of those cards to the graveyard when your opponent attacks, to negate the attack. So that's what Utopia does. So that's what you would do. Basically, for the XYZ guys, the cards they're using to attach, you're using the cards attached to be able to use that card's special effect. In some ways, some of them you'll discard both cards, some of you'll just discard one card. Just make sure you're reading the card, and it'll let you know, how to use the effect and best utilize the card. This one's the newest summon, guys, so far in the game, which is Link Summon. It's a little bit kind of like the synchro that we looked at, except in this case, we don't need a tuner to do this. We can do this with any card on our side of the field. Yet again, make sure you're reading the cards themselves so you can see what you need to play. Some of them you have to have, it's just 2 different monsters, or just 2 monsters, or a monster and a token. They're all different, so just yet again, make sure you're reading the card that you're trying to make as you're going through and, maybe making your deck, and then definitely when you're trying to, get them out to the field. These can only be special summoned in the extra monster zone. I'll show you guys that here in a little bit too when we get into the zones. But these cards, you just, yet again, you take the ones you're going to use to make them, guys, and send them to the graveyard. And then you special summon him in the extra monster zone. But yup. Alright, so the next one, guys, are zones in the Master Rule 5. All of these are hyperlinks. If you guys do choose to use the job aid that I have down below, you can click all of them. So we'll just kind of segue into the extra monster zone, because that's what we were talking about before. So if you play a link monster, guys, it has to go in this zone. So it has to go in one of these zones here. One of these is yours, one of these is your opponent. So just please make sure you keep that in mind. If you're using a mat, it makes it so much easier. If you're not using a mat, it does make it hard to play Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2020, to be honest. So it's best you do that. It still can definitely be done, but it does make sure when you're getting to doing these, because when you do, remember that also that to be able to special summon, like if I wanted to play another link monster, I can only do it where the arrows are pointing. So like if we go back to I won't be able to go back to the slide, but the one that had right before the arrows went here and here, that means if I link summoned him and then wanted to link summon something else, they would have to go here or here. I can't put them in any other zones. When you guys do links, they're very different. The other cards, it doesn't matter. I can still do for the extra monster zone, I can still put fusion, synchros, XYZs, stuff like that in the zone. That's fine. But if I go to link summon, guys, you're going to have to use it as to be able to link summon. If you can't use it to link summon with one of the cards you've got, you basically locked yourself out of the extra zone and being able to link summon out of the deck. So be careful with that if you are using link monsters. If you're not using link monsters, it's not that much to worry about, but it's an extra zone for you to play synchros and fusions and all that good stuff. The normal monster card zone, this is where you guys are going to be putting mostly pretty much your fusions, your synchros, your XYZs, links as well. Like we discussed before, if it points to the arrow, you can put it in the field. And just your normal monster cards, your normal summon and special summon for your turn, they're all going to go in this 5 zone that you see here. Uh, Next, you've got your spell and trap card zones. So these where you would activate your spell and trap card zones. You guys have 5 of them. Uh, Remember, if you're playing pendulums, the furthest two yet again have to be used for that. If you're not using pendulums, guys, you can still use these to activate or set spells or trap cards. This would be yet again the zone where if you have like a continuous spell or a continuous trap, it would stay active in the same spot that you activate it. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're setting those cards face down. As far as the deck, you have to have at least 40 cards to play the game, guys, and no more than 60. So your deck needs to be built around 40 to 60 cards. The lower the cards, the easier it is to get whatever it is you're trying to get. The graveyard, remember, anything that you activate unless specified all goes to the graveyard. Any spells, traps, monsters that are destroyed by battle or using to synchro, fusion, whatever you're doing, all that's going to go to the graveyard unless specified specifically on those cards. Or maybe your opponent's got something that forces all your cards to be removed from play, so they get removed from play instead. But most of everything you guys are activating are all going to go to the graveyard unless someone's done something to change that. Which would put them in the Banished Zone, or also what's known as removed from play. These usually happen by a monster card effect or some sort of cost in some cases, guys. So just kind of keep that in mind. You can still bring some of these back. Some of them, they can be like banished, and they can never come back. You'll be able to tell based on the card effect, what the card says and things like that if it's not coming back. But most, I would say like 99% of cards, if they're removed from play, you can get them back, but you just have to have something, like a spell card or magic card, basically, spell card basically to bring them back. From there, it could be to your hand, the deck, or it could be even the graveyard, or special summon it to the field. So just kind of keep that in mind. The extra deck zone, guys, you don't have to have an extra deck. Most people, of course, do. You can only have up to 15 cards. So this is where all of those, the link monsters, the fusions, the synchros, XYZ cards, these were all those cards are going to go that we talked about a minute ago. These here, the particular that I have listed, only these here go into this zone. So you can use up to 15 of them in this zone. So just please keep that in mind as you're going through and trying to strategize and build your deck and get that going. Also, when your pendulum monsters are destroyed, they're sent into your extra deck zone face up, guys, instead of to the graveyard. So just kind of keep that in mind too. Next is the field spell zone. You guys just put your field spell here. That's just where it's placed. I mean, there's nothing else to say other than that. Let's see, and that's pretty much it, guys. We've covered everything here. So that's everything I had for today's video. I appreciate you guys if you guys have made it this far in the video. Please remember to like the video and get subscribed if you're not already subscribed. Please share this video with a friend, family member, whoever you're trying to get to play the game, or maybe you're interested in the game, or they mentioned they were interested in the game. I'm going to continue to make more videos like this, guys. Also, please make sure you comment down below what your thoughts are. What is something you would like me to dive deeper into that I did in today's video, or what's something that just in general that maybe you have a question on, or whatever it may be. Please post them down in the comments down below. I'll make sure I read them and respond back to you guys. And some of them more than likely I'll go ahead and do just a separate video on. I've got a few things in mind myself already to do a different video on. But I appreciate you guys watching as always, and this will be the end of today's video, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.